Hey everybody, welcome back to Bald Move Prestige. Today, we're going to be talking about a little film that came out in 2013 called The Wolf of Wall Street, directed by a little-known director, Martin Scorsese. The screenplay was by Terrence Winter. It's based on The Wolf of Wall Street by Jordan Belford, which gets turned into Belmont because this is a right? Isn't it
Nope.
Isn't it
Nope.
Jordan?
They use his real last name. Yeah.
Okay, because this is a lightly or maybe heavily fictionalized account of his life story.
Yeah. I mean, do you believe that the guy is in his autobiography telling the truth? And B, do you believe that Martin
Right.
Scorsese has actually accurately captured that? Who knows?
Yeah, there's two layers of fuckery in which you can view the lens of this movie. It stars
Yeah.
so many famous people. Leonardo DiCaprio is the titular wolf. Jonah Hill, who is fully insane this entire fucking movie.
Uh-huh.
Margot Robbie, who is incandescently hot. Matthew McConaughey, which he has a brief but iconic and cadaverous kind of role to play as an 80s, greed is good style stockbroker that takes the wolf in as a cub and teaches him the ways of fucking with people's money. Rob Reiner is in this film that I'd forgotten about. John Favreau, Favs, is in here.
Thomas Middleditch is in here at one point.
Thomas Middleditch, before I even knew who the fuck he was. I think Shea Wiggum.
Yep.
Was it like this is a year like this is the third coming into the third season of Boardwalk. But I think I'd seen this movie first, so I didn't really know who Shea Wiggum was. I didn't know who Terrence Winter was. And this is like this is right before we started doing kind of pop culture on Bald Move. So like once we get past 2013, 2014, like almost every movie that was prominent or Oscar winning, we probably saw and covered. But this is one of those few right in that transition period that kind of got left behind.
Kristen Milioti, who's I feel like blowing up or has blown up in the last 7 years since this.
Right. Wasn't she the Time Warp movie?
Spring Break. Uh-huh.
Not Spring Break. What it was called?
Sorry, Palm Springs. No, Spring Break is totally different
movie. It's also twisted and psychedelic.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went into this movie. I remember really enjoying the first movie, or the first time I saw it, and I think I saw this twice when it came out. Once in the theaters and once on video. And I was worried that when I watched it again, that because I've changed a little bit as a person in the last 7 years. Like, would I like it as much? Would I find it as interesting? And I think I feel pretty much the same way. That this movie is like Goodfellas, another Martin Scorsese movie that this shares a lot of DNA with.
Tons.
This movie is a ton of fun, and up until the point it's not.
Yeah.
And then it's pretty miserable when the chickens come home to roost and the piper has to be paid and the full awfulness of this lifestyle kind of rears its head. Goodfellas was more punctuated by truly awful things. Although I guess, I don't know, like, no one gets stabbed to death in the early goings of this, but, women are ritually humiliated. The damage that people do to their bodies is immense. You also don't see it, but it's implied the destruction of so many people's lives, especially,
right.
They're preying on working class people, plumbers, firemen, the carpenters, mailmen, like people that don't have money to blow, that just want a slice of the American dream. They're destroying these people financially.
It's a true carnage in this film.
Yeah, but you don't really feel that because Jordan, Belfort is having this amazing time with hookers and blow and supermodels and drugs and like insane salesmanship. What did you think of the film?
I got something controversial to say because Martin Scorsese is such a famed, such an iconic director. And, when you talk about stuff like Goodfellas, it's almost not even like interesting to compare this to Goodfellas because it is Goodfellas. It's just Goodfellas on Wall Street.
It's white collar Goodfellas.
Yeah, absolutely. Through and through. But I'm going to say that this is maybe his most culturally relevant film. And look, I haven't seen all of Martin Scorsese's work, but this speaks to like an issue that is happening in the here and now. Whereas you look at these gangster films like Casino and uh, Goodfellas, and that shit's old, right? Like that's old news. Like there aren't organized Italian crime gangs going around murdering people in the streets anymore. Like the organized crime is still a thing. I don't want to get it twisted here, but as far as relevancy goes, this is a much more relevant film, I think, than any of those gangster films he's done in the past, or the Irishman or anything like that, right?
I was going to say, ironically, his most relevant gangster film right now is Gangs of New York, which says a lot about the state of America and where we're at right now. But yeah,
okay,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
And when I think of Martin Scorsese, I don't think of like culturally relevant stuff. I don't think of like, oh, here's a hard hitting take on the American dream. But like this movie gets most of the way there, I think. Even though I would say it's maybe a little too fun for its own good. But that's the point, right? This movie is incendiary. It's supposed to make me disgusted with the characters and their crimes and myself for enjoying the film. Like I don't come out of this movie feeling like either I just watched an amazing 3 hours of debauchery and fun. I also don't come out of this movie thinking, boy, I hate everything that I just saw. Like I don't know, I feel like other films would take an angle and go with it, whereas this presents this presents it in a way where like I get so wrapped up in enjoying what I'm seeing until I realize that I'm enjoying it too much and I should be hating everything that's happening on screen.
To pivot on that point or continue on that point, I read a lot of contemporary think pieces and interviews where they say like concurrent, Wall Street bad boys love this movie. Unironically love this movie in much the same way that the movie itself predicted when they showed that, this Jordan Belfort character got, this piece on Forbes, which he thought was a hatchet job, where it's like, oh, this guy's just, lying and stealing and manipulating and making tons of cash. It's disgusting. And the next day they had guys lined out the door to work for him because that's everything they want to be. And it's hard to judge. It's hard to judge art by the worst people who enjoy it. Right. Because I've seen a lot of people hewing and hemming and hawing about, Godfather glorifies mafia culture and Goodfellas glorifies mafia culture. And it kind of does, but it also never, it allows you to, kind of like the way we talked about the Hitchcock film last week, you get sucked into doing these bad things. And then when the camera gets spun around and you start seeing like, oh, well, do you like this? Well, how about this? How about this? Is this okay? And you start feeling increasingly kind of queasy.
Yeah.
Or just like Hitchcock said about the people that kind of like catch the breath when, Norman Bates like is about to get foiled to get away from the crime. Like these kind of movies play with that. And I think decent people can, see why this is seductive, to see why a person, especially like Jordan Belfort, that came from nothing, came from below middle class, and gets this, like why, this is so seductive, but also why this is kind of what's wrong with the American dream. That like is this the American dream? Like using people and taking advantage of chumps and making yourself rich at the expense of making other people poor, and then doing what with it?
Yeah. And they set that all up right with this Matthew McConaughey character in the beginning, who's basically saying, yeah, we don't make anything, and our whole existence is simply to put money in our pockets while we keep these fools on a merry-go-round where they eventually lose all their money. Like, yeah, that's that is a predator-prey relationship that is disturbing.
But it's wild because like I don't think that's. It's so funny to hear Matthew McConaughey state that, because I think there's a the opposite of crazy is crazy, the stock market's it's like all this economy is just bullshit, it's sprinkly, it's magic fairy dust. It's like that belies a lot of like sound economic fundamentals with fiat currency and market forces and all that kind of stuff that are very powerful, very useful, and are great at generating like just wealth in general. And it's also kind of insane to say that like none of that's effective. It's all or you know, it's like the truth is somewhere in the middle. But for these guys, the fact that like their clients, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter whether they make money or not, because they're making money on them trying to make money. They're making money on the commissions. They're making money. And, this takes place, in the 80s and 90s, before you had, the internet kind of came along and had like zero fee trades and no commission kind of structures. And people could, do more prudent things like invest in 401ks and Roth IRAs and not just essentially gamble on especially penny stocks. Holy shit. Yeah. But I don't know. It's like that same mentality, that gambler's mentality, that bankrupts people at casinos, the same thing that can bankrupt people on Wall Street if they're not, paying attention and are not in it for a long haul investment.
I guess the interesting thing, like some people I think miss, and it's easy to miss. I don't fault them for missing this, but this movie is not all fun and games. Jordan Belfort, the end of the movie shows you, it all circles back around, because at the beginning of the movie, he says, like, if you have enough of this drug, and he's talking about money, you're invincible, right? You've got nothing to fear. You can vanquish your enemies, all that stuff. And then at the end of the movie, we show him going to prison for 22 months or whatever he did.
36 months.
Yeah, he ended up serving 22 because, of course, a sentence is not actually
a Jesus, really? It's not even as bad as they made it out to be in the movie? Holy fuck.
So yeah, he goes away for the 36 months. But he's in fucking Club Med, right? He's playing tennis with his buddies in Ascot's. Like, this is bullshit.
Club Fed,
And you are supposed to feel an anger at that, right? But also at the same time, what I think you miss in this whole equation is that, yes, he's gotten off basically scot-free in a financial and lifestyle sense, but he's lost his wife. He's lost 2 wives over the course of this, actually. He's lost his kids. He's lost his houses. That's the thing that I don't think the movie does enough to point out, is the carnage that this lifestyle reaps on his own life, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing, because I think that, like, if you ask Scorsese that, he'd be like, well, that's the point. You're I want to make it seem like this guy who lives this crazy, crazy lifestyle, who's hurt all this people, doesn't really pay a consequence. And you should take that anger out of the theater with you, and you should take that into your politics. You should take that in your understanding of criminal justice. You should take that into the way you vote and the way you invest your own money, and it should change the world. Mm-hmm. But like, I don't know. I don't think it really does. Like, there's been a lot of research and study on how if you parody things, you do things like this, it normalizes it more than it does galvanize people, because the anger that you feel about, like, holy shit. And the movie itself skips over, like, when he rinses his hands of his first wife, you never see or hear from her again.
Yeah.
And I think he had kids in that marriage too. And, he punches Margot Robbie twice, and he tries to do a Walter White and steal his daughter. He gets into his car wreck, could have killed them both. And that just too is a consequence that gets skipped over. And even when it feels like the movie starts to feel heavy, and he's like living with his, guilt over turning state's evidence on his friends and ruining all them, then there's this, like, where it's like the movie's starting to kind of like sit with his despair. Then he comes in with a voiceover and it's like, I almost forgot one thing. I'm rich. Uh-huh. And then, he recovers, and it ends with him. And, like, obviously he's going to get all of his houses back and all that stuff.
Well, so, that's the thing that pissed me off the most. And the thing that made me feel the grossest about this whole system is that scene where he's sitting around his pool and he's talking with Jonah Hill. And he's got this ankle bracelet, right? He's under house arrest.
Right.
And Jonah Hill's like, he's saying, oh, we're going to have to sell the house to, pay all the lawyer fees and all this stuff. Jonah's like, I got you. These people are fucking invincible, right? Like, you get rich enough, enough people, and there's nothing they can do to you that will actually stick, because your buddies will come in and bail you out because you've bailed them out. And it's just this cycle that there's no check, there's no balance, there's nothing. These people will continue to get away with it until everyone's just says enough is enough.
And that's the way it's always been. Like,
Yeah.
when you do, you look at like the old debtors' prisons that they used to have before it's like, obviously that's insane. You throw people for owing money into jail and they can't earn money. But the reason that went on for so long is it never affected the upper classes, because it's understood that if a proper gentleman lost some money or had some hard times, his other gentleman friends would help him out,
Right.
get a few £1,000 and you settle the debt and the other guy gets paid and this guy's learned a hard lesson and you move on.
Yep.
But that just doesn't apply to the middle classes where, it's like, okay, well, yeah, I've got some friends that might have a few £1,000, but then they'll be bankrupt too. And the lower classes, like, fuck, yeah, no, they're just going to rot in prison for the rest of their lives. And it's taken us 250 plus years to reinvent a class and peerage system here in the United States that was designed to undo all that stuff. Because, yeah, like, it's like there's this story going around right now where a black woman's going to jail for 5 years for accidentally committing voter fraud, where she voted in the wrong precinct that she wasn't supposed to. And then you got a thing like this where, Jordan Belfort, who steals millions and millions of people over the course of a decade and kills 3 people apparently in his greed, at least. And that's just like a throwaway line in the movie. He gets 36 months prison and 22 months actual. And then they make, I mean, all this stuff is driven home. Like the FBI officer who is like riding the subway and kind of like looking at this, headline about his life's work up to that point, taking this guy down, and how like it's not even really, But the thing is like I said, like the anger lasts for 5 minutes after you get in the movie. And then you think, when I think about The Wolf of Wall Street, before I sat down and watched it, I thought about how fun it is to watch Leo try to drive his Lamborghini on Superludes. I thought how fun it is that Jonah Hill acts like a crazy person at every point in the movie. And the popcorn cotton candy stays with you, but the anger and the sickness at the pit of your stomach goes away,
Yeah. No, you're right.
So I think we should talk about the merits of the film itself, because there are just some ferocious performances, especially by Leonardo DiCaprio and Jonah Hill. This is the movie that put like kind of Jonah Hill on the map for me, because
is this post Moneyball? Is this? I don't remember.
Yeah, no, it turns out Moneyball came out 2 years before this, so that was kind of his feet wet into serious acting.
Yeah.
And then since Wolf of Wall Street, he's done far more kind of serious acting than he's done lunatic off the wall stuff. But this is the other thing is this is this film is a comedy, and it works as a comedy. Like a black comedy that lasts 3 fucking hours. That's the other thing is, I remember we had so much stuff to watch in the last couple of days. When I saw that this thing was fully 3 hours long, I despaired. But I swear to God, watching it feels like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Like the time flies by.
It breezes by. I think like maybe you could have cut out a little bit of the partying. I don't know that you needed so many scenes of that, but ultimately, like, it is fun. And, that's kind of serving the purpose, right? The partying is part of it. It's about the lifestyle. It's about, it's about that juxtaposition between how you should feel about this and how you do feel about it.
Yeah, and I feel like that's part of the point of the movie is there's about 4 points where you think, this is where the worm's going to turn. This is where the chickens are going to go home to roost. This is where it's going to get bad. But the movie just keeps trucking. No, they survive that with very little consequences, a slap on the wrist at best, and then they go bigger and better and harder. Yeah. So like nothing ever really stops them. And they even make that point like in the beginning of the movie where, Jordan is just getting started. He hasn't got a Series 7 license to be an official stockbroker yet. And he's working at this, high power prestige stockbroker firm. And he finally gets his license on that day. It's Black Friday, whichever it was in the like 1989 when the stock market
Black Monday.
Historic crash that we've had like 3 worse ones since. And he loses his job, and like Matthew McConaughey presumably probably overdoses on coke that night. And so that feels like a setback, right? But it's not, because then he gets introduced. He goes into this Long Island penny stock trading firm, which looks like it's the seediest, grossest place in the world. And I don't know. Like, what's the deal with penny stocks? Because it's like it seems like what he's doing is obvious. He's just selling, like, penny stocks themselves are snake oil, and he's just like doing a snake oil salesman. Like, what were these fuckers doing before he came along that they were struggling? Because it seems like that's a way you can make a lot of money.
I think they were just doing the same thing except poorly. He's like a magician on the phone to them. So yeah, they just couldn't sell.
And Leonardo DiCaprio has a quiet little career of effortlessly selling some superhuman talent, like a great salesperson. Like, we never see like Alec Baldwin and Glenn Ross at his, like, he comes in this and just berates everybody and unmans them and tells them they can't have coffee, and you're like, wow, what a fucking but we never see him actually good at selling, right? It's so funny because this film has like 5 or 6 different Glenn Ross quality speeches interspersed throughout, but like Leonardo DiCaprio shows us, like, when he's on the phone working his magic, you can imagine being on the other side of that line getting suckered in. He was very good in like Catch Me If You Can, showing like how a confidence man works. And then he's like, you can even apply this to like Inception, where he very efficiently, I think he has the help from Christopher Nolan, shows what a really good fictitious job like dream infiltrator looks like. He's just, I don't know, maybe it's his natural charisma and smoothness, which is what you need. But I don't know, because the rest of his crew, who are not smooth and who are not charming or charismatic at all, are able to ape his style, and still, because it's over the phone.
Yeah, it's over the phone, and they're using essentially his script. Certainly, like, almost word for word, probably in the beginning, but then later on, they probably, get the gist of it.
Like, Rugrat as a confidence man doesn't work, because at some point he has to go to your door and like personally con you and swindle you. But Rugrat over the phone can absolutely work, because he can sound as smart and sophisticated and suave as Jordan here.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like I said, we all, to say this, to talk about the performances, I've never quite seen anything like, and he swings for the fences in a lot of different films, like Revenant, Aviator.
Yeah.
But this stuff he does when he's just in the grips of deep drug and alcohol interactions is hysterical, frightening, and just, it feels like I don't know what it feels like to take 4 industrial banned quantities of these super lewds and then chase it with a 5th of Jack and then try to get in a Lambo. But I imagine it looks exactly like this.
Oh yeah. No, that is a truly iconic scene. It's one that I will probably never forget having seen. And it's it's the best scene in the movie, but it's also like not head and shoulders above everything else, because everything else in this movie is so damn good. And he has several performances like that throughout the course of this film. That this is one of his more reprehensible characters, I think. Like, the stuff he does in what's the Quentin Tarantino movie where he plays the guy who's
Django Unchained, Candy,
Candyland. That's like the one I can think of off the top of my head that's worse. But like, he plays like this sophisticated, smooth, suave guy, but underneath I can just see the layers of shit that I would, this person is not a decent human being in any way.
Yeah, and one of the other great scenes is where he squares off between him and his FBI agent.
Yeah, on that boat.
Just after he gets done talking to his PI, who's like this Mr. Wolf character himself, and he's like, Jesus Christ, do not talk to this. Stay away from this guy. This guy's smart. You're stupid. Yeah. And then you see Jordan being very stupid to this very sharp FBI agent, and right to the point where the FBI agent kind of plays with him, is kind of fucking with him. He's like, I'm getting gold from this guy. I'm getting some charge from him. And then he turns the tables on him and it's like, I've taken down a lot of asshole scumbags on Wall Street. And, I got to get my hats off to you because they were born to the manor. You know, they came from a long line of scuzzball, asshole, amoral fathers, but you, Jordan, you did it all on your own. You didn't have the asshole spoon born with the asshole spoon in your mouth. You got there all on your own steam. And it's like one of the most savage backhand compliments I've ever heard delivered.
Yeah.
But that's, yeah, like, how did he get this way? Like, his father kind of seems like a piece of work, but not in a maniacal way that would bring about this. His mom seems like a decent person. He himself had like some kind of moral fiber entering in this, like, oh, I'm not going to drink. I'm not going to do drugs. I just want, you know, like,
Yeah.
I thought that our, you know, it's like, yeah, sure, we're getting rich, but we're helping like, there's no shame in generating wealth for someone and as a byproduct of that, getting wealthy yourself. But
that's the thing. It's not just about getting rich for him, right?
I think it was, but
it's about an addiction to money and power. It's
greed.
I think, yeah, in the beginning it is wanting to get rich, and I think like what he says about, you know, everybody wants to get rich is mostly true. I think there are people who, you know, value certain things over money, definitely. But everybody wants to get rich in order to, for the security aspect of it, right? And the future of their family and stuff. Not everybody wants to get rich to be a rich asshole. And that's the problem, is I think it went too far, where you become rich and that you let that greed feed back into itself, and then you just don't give a shit who you hurt.
Yeah, you've got, like, I don't think everyone wants to get rich. I think everyone wants to be left alone and not be fucked with, and have a good degree of individual autonomy and freedom. And unfortunately, in our system, the only way to guarantee that is to be filthy, stinking rich.
Yeah.
Because that's the only place where you can be kind of unfuckwithable. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what people really, really want. I mean, there's ways you can envision a system that, you know, that wouldn't require that, but that's not the world we live in. But it's because, like, I felt like there was that point where Matthew McConaughey takes him out to lunch, and he shatters all of his illusions. Like, no, that generating wealth for that's not bullshit. It's all about, you know, how much do you jerk off? Oh, 3-4 times a week. Those are rookie numbers. You need to pump those numbers up. You need to start doing cocaine. You need to start getting yourself shit-faced drunk. You need to just keep these guys riding on the merry-go-round, because that's how we make money. Fuck them if they don't lose money, or if they don't make money. And I think he was a little bothered and sickened by that, but instead he kind of came away with like, oh, I guess my perspective needs to change, rather than this is just amoral and crazy.
Yeah.
And you know, I guess that's the thing. That's the original sin. He decided, you know, it's not like he worked there for a year while they were paying platitudes and saying that they were doing the right, like, this day one, nope, here's the naked, unvarnished truth about this industry. And he's like, fuck yeah, I want to go all in. And there was a couple other, like, Jonah Hill coming into his life. Who does that? Why do you give Jonah Hill a job, man? Yeah. And on day one of you doing it, he takes back and says, hey, man, you want to smoke a crack pipe? And then, like, yeah, this is the guy I want to start a company with. I thought that was kind of, like, crazy unbelievable. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. Like, I'm glad Jonah Hill's in this film. He's a wild man. He's like this agent of chaos. Do you think... it's very unclear to me, seeing this movie 3 times, one with the 7-year gap in between it, what happens at the end? Because Jordan agrees to wear the wire, but he goes to Jonah Hill and he slips him a note saying, don't incriminate yourself, I'm wearing a wire. How does the FBI get that? Is Jonah Hill, are you supposed to understand that Jonah Hill flipped on everyone? But then once he did, why did Jordan get a chance to cooperate again? It's like... Yeah.
That's the thing. Once he breaks that deal he's got, I don't know why he isn't just like hit with the fucking book, but like... Yeah. My impression is that they must have dug this out of their trash or something. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how they got it exactly.
It's wild because I you know, if you don't know, I do this other like political podcast thing on the side. It's over at Swizzbowl. Jim kind of produces it, and I do the in front of the mic stuff. But early on, I kind of had like a, you know, kind of anti-Wolf of Wall Street take, and I had a surprising amount of pushback on the idea that we should treat white collar crime with the same kind of severity that we do violent crime. You know, like if you murder someone, you get put away for 20 years. What should you get if you take 100,000 people's retirement account and flush it down? Like, to me, you are in absolute terms killing at least one person if you do that, because someone's going to commit suicide if they've if they've worked for 40 years and then they got to fucking be greeter at Walmart because their retirement that they counted on is gone. Like, but that guy's, there's a separation between killing someone and I don't understand. And as long as we have that sliding scale of justice, we're going to continue to have this. Like, that's the strongest argument for, yes, Jordan Belfort or whatever the fuck, Belmont, slaying vampires, whatever, werewolf of Wall Street, he should have gone away for 20 years. And if we did that for a generation or two, we might have a Wall Street worth fucking, defending and not as rapacious as it is. But as long as we could be like, well, if someone's slinging crack, or someone, killed somebody, or someone, did this or that, that's a totally different crime than what these people are doing. We're always going to have this slap on the wrist system of justice, which means and that just, I feel like it's corrosive to the whole idea of justice. Like, look at what it does as FBI agent at the end. Like, is he going to as you got Jordan entering this organization, fresh-faced, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, gets pumped full of this bullshit and destroys the world. And you have this other FBI agent, straight arrow, Boy Scout, fresh-eyed, fresh-faced, bright-eyed. You go through the same system. One guy ends up even just as rich, continue to take advantage of people. The other guy rides home on a subway thinking he's the biggest rube in the world. Is he going to as zealously prosecute the Wall Street guys going forward? Like,
I don't know.
It's just so, to me, so patently fucked up, but yet people defend it.
And I mean, that's absolutely right. The penalties are not harsh enough. I know that, like, it's not necessarily about the penalty of getting caught, but the certainty of getting caught is what is a effective deterrent. And we have, undermined the IRS and underfunded the IRS and taken out all the safeguards we have against these types of schemes going unnoticed, or at least unprosecuted. Like, defunding the police is so controversial, but we constantly defund the white collar police and no one bats an eye. In fact, it's celebrated. Yeah. So yeah, we need to maybe pump up those systems, but I don't know. It's crazy to me too, because like this movie, I don't want to say like it's wishy-washy on this stuff, but it does vacillate between like, this is, this guy getting his comeuppance and this guy, this federal agent succeeding. And there's a string of scenes where Belfort goes to jail, where you can see, okay, the federal agent is riding the subway, just like they talked about on the boat, right? And he's thinking about that. But then that scene is immediately cut to Jordan Belfort riding a prison bus. So like, in that moment, you think, oh, well, okay, the subway is far preferable, right, to the prison bus. But then they cut again right back over to his fucking Club Med life he's living in this prison. Yeah, I forgot I was rich. Right. I gotta admit, I was scared for a minute going into prison, but then I forgot I was rich. And it immediately turns that feeling on its head. And that's part of it, right? This whiplash of like, there's justice. Oh, shit, there's not. Oh, but wait, he lost his family. Oh, but he doesn't give a shit, and he's still rich. Right. There are so many little moments like that where the film is whiplashing you back and forth between those feelings of extreme, envy and joy and excitement, and these like depths of despair. And I don't know. I think it's effective because I come out of this film thinking, man, I really enjoyed that ride, but I probably shouldn't have, because it's a disgusting ride. Yeah, and like what the movie stays with, I think, is interesting, because there's some things like Jonah Hill fucking with John Bernthal is a delight and also is a pivotal plot point, because this guy, for why? Why does he do this? It's so needless. That's it. And this is the beginning of the end when he pulls this shit and he gets arrested. And I'm like, I understand because they spend like 10 minutes setting up that scene, and then the scene itself is like a good long
just like, man, look at this guy just provoking John Bernthal, and he's going to get an epic ass beating. But then they have this thing where there's like a 7-minute scene of them negotiating a contract for little people that they can toss at a dartboard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, what purpose does this serve? It's like kind of black comedy, but
I mean, it paints the picture of these people, certainly.
Right, but I don't even know if the movie itself has a certain point of view over it. Does like Martin Scorsese actually kind of think this is cool in a way that you can do something like this and get away with it?
Yeah, that's a fair question. I don't know. Because in the gangster movies, I always get the feeling that like he's writing a love letter to a bygone era, which he acknowledges is a nasty thing, but also there's some romance to it.
Sure.
And I feel like he's doing the same here, but I don't know that I quite feel the same. I don't quite get the same vibe from this as I do from those.
And there's like others, like you could say the same thing, I guess, about the Ferrari, the Lambo scene, though that like, is a piece of that's a piece of art.
Yeah.
And also it's a pivotal plot point, like Jonah Hill fucked up and has always been a fuck up, and he's trying to hide the fuck up with an enormous amount of drugs, which has been an increasing pattern in this movie. And now he's made a mountain into fucking Vesuvius. It's now a volcano exploding. And so it's like, it's not only just like on the face of it funny, and also it works at like in the rules of three. It's super funny to see him just go instantly comatose and pass out on his hotel floor. It's super funny to watch him try to get out the front door and into this car. And then the punchline is when the cops come.
Yep.
And he's like, what are you talking about? It's only a mile I got home with that. And you go and see the Lambo, and it just looks like it's been through a fucking wood chipper.
Yeah.
And like but there's like a bunch of scenes like that where they went on for a pretty long time. Like there's this long discussion that he has with his father about Bush.
Uh-huh. I love that scene, but I don't really know what purpose it serves.
Yeah, and I also wonder how much of this dialogue was scripted versus how much of it was improvised, because some of this stuff with like Jonah Hill feels very like him and Bernthal going out felt very improvisational, like and I wonder if he got like some of these very talented actors, and it's like Martin Scorsese's like, I can't cut any of this Bush talk, it's gold, I can't cut any of this like look how like the Rugrat negotiating and talking about oh, you can't touch their dick, but this guy he's weapons free on dicks, like it's just too funny.
Little people scene seems to be like partially improvised, and also I'm really not sure what purpose that serves other than to establish characters as assholes. The scene with the Bush talk to me is trying to convey some sort of corrupting influence of this life, right? Like or the world as it progresses, because like you get the two generations of guys, right? And Rob Reiner's like, God, they have no bush now. They're shaved from the eyebrows down. What? Yeah. Wow. If I was a young man, I don't know what I'd do. That sort of thing, right? Like, and you may or may not like Bush, whatever. But like, there is a sort of like lifestyle creep, right? Like cultural creep toward the lavish, the drug fueled binges. The sex parties, like shit happened, back in Rob Reiner's day. I'm sure of it, right? You don't live through the 60s without your share of sex parties, right?
Oh, right. Like the posh British aunt. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Right. But also like that shit creeps. It's like Magic the Gathering. There's power creep, right? You see, the parties, the sex parties, the 60s existed. Yeah. But come on, they were probably tame compared to the ones that are going on Wall Street, right? Flying transatlantic on a fucking airplane and having an orgy in there, right?
That bacchanal, yeah.
Rob Reiner probably never did that. Yeah, so there is a corrupting influence, right? It's not all just like these guys are terrible people. It's also partially this feedback loop.
There's speaking of Jonah Hill, I one of the questions I had is like, did he eat that goldfish? Because that's either really good CGI or practical effect, or he ate a fucking goldfish. I looked into it, and I guess he wanted to eat goldfish. And Scorsese's like, you can't eat goldfish, Jonah. If you do that, the PETA people will fuck us. We won't get that label on the film, and there'll be a shit show. So like Jonah Hill's like, calm down, man. You want to eat a goldfish. The compromise they worked out is that he could keep the goldfish in his mouth for 3 seconds.
Okay.
So he put a real life goldfish in his mouth, rolled it around for 3 seconds, and spit it out in the water, apparently unharmed.
Boy.
I don't know.
Does that make it better?
Did a veterinarian, did an ichthyologist like sign off on the rolling around in Jonah Hill's filthy mouth for, just been sucking fake blow off a hooker's ass like the shot before they sign off on that? But like, it's lunatic. And there's other things that I wondered what the point of is, like when they're showing the Steve Madden shoes deal. What's the point of having them lampoon this guy? Like, why did Jordan let his entire bullpen tear into this guy and mock him and throw shit at him before he comes in and talks about what a genius he is? And then like all that's beside the point, because here's a script that's going to sell these fuckers, has nothing to do with it. Right. Like, I kept on wondering, it's like, is this saying something about this type of career, like this type of industry, that he's trying to say that like these guys aren't even particularly good managers? How can they be? Like, these aren't geniuses. These aren't brilliant people. These are coked up lunatics doing everything wrong, being offensive and off-putting. And it doesn't matter because the other people's greed is such that they want in on this IPO. They don't want to miss out. They got this fear of missing out.
Yeah.
But it's like, I don't know. Like, that's the thing. Like, this movie's perspective seems to be that everything on Wall Street, everything involving fiat currency or the stock market is a bunch of bullshit. It doesn't matter. I don't personally believe that. Despite, some of my political rhetoric, I am still a capitalist, and I want to believe that there is something to all this. But like, goddamn, it does seem like anytime I've seen a documentary on the inner workings of some of these things, like in the smartest guys in the room at Enron, this fucking thing with the Belmont Buford Lion Corporation, they all seem, and like my own experiences in like Fortune 500 companies, I don't think there's geniuses on top. I think it's a lot of fucking dumb luck and hard work of people in the middle and the bottom, and customers liking things, and it's like this idea that you've got somebody that's worth $100 million at the top because every once in a while they take a break from sniffing blow off a hooker's butt, and they make a decision about which big money thing to push into. Like, it does seem like a fallacy.
Yeah. And they don't even necessarily have to take a break from the blow to make that decision, as is spectacularly demonstrated in this movie, right? That scene on the boat or at the pool party with the pool table, and they're playing beer pong, and Jonah Hill. This movie loves lewds, man. Every time it's a fucking opera. They go into, Jonah Hill pops a lewd, and they kick in.
They make it seem like a slow-mo drug from Dread. Everything's going in slow time, and it's all candy colored, and yeah.
That reminds me, the thing that I like so much about that Lambo scene when those lewds kick in is it gives you a moment there where it's like, okay, it's the distorted camera and you're feeling what it's like to be in his head, but then seeing it from the outside, right? Seeing this character trying to get to his Lamborghini in completely sober shots. It's like you're standing in that driveway watching this lunatic. There's something about the disparity there between what's happening in his brain and what we're seeing play out in real life is absolutely hysterical to me.
And it's also kind of relatable because, like, I've known people that get blackout drunk on a regular basis and like, oh, bro, man, I was like, fucking wait, I don't even fucking remember last weekend. Well, then what did you do it for, man? Yeah. Like that scene where he's talking about the 4 stages of lewds, and like the uptake phase seemed like recognizable fun. But when he's getting like some prostitutes grinding on him and he's like drooling and eyes crossed and's never going to remember it, like, what's the fucking point? Yeah. Like it. And I think there's something that the movie's trying to say about that too. Is like, well, the point is, I don't know. You do so much bad shit that you just want to turn your brain off. Like, you just can't deal with anything harsh sober. Like, you're going to go sinking on a ship. Like, that's the other funny thing is like, how many times these guys went off to save $10, $20 million and lost 100? Like, how much money do you think he lost when that ship sunk? the helicopter,
Was it insured? I don't know.
The
Like
120-foot yacht.
Nothing.
And he did that just to save $20 million that his dead aunt, he had to do some kind of crazy probate scam involving these corrupt Swiss bankers to save it, and he probably lost 80 million. I don't know, man. It's just that's the thing. Like and it's not even real. Like none of the losses that they experience are ever seemingly real. Like, there's always this talk of like, well, maybe I'll lose my house, maybe I'll do this, but the only thing they really lose is their humanity and their human connections to people, and it doesn't seem to matter.
And I think that's the point, of showing the excess in the drugs. It's to link it to the excess in the money, because they're both, the film all over it is saying that money is a drug, that he is an addict. And that's the point, right? In those scenes where you're seeing how far this guy goes and how pointless it all is, you're supposed to be thinking the same thing that you're thinking about the lewds for the money.
Yeah. I had that feeling too. There's a scene where there's like 3 times it happens where someone comes, and it's usually John Favreau. He goes and says like, "Hey, you got to take this deal, or they're gonna fuck you. You got to take this deal." Finally, he's like, "No, seriously. Like this was after the Lambo incident. You've got to take this deal, and you can just essentially walk away scot-free." Mm-hmm. Like even though they got you dead to rights, if you just voluntarily give up this company and say you promise you'll never work on Wall Street again, everything will go away. You get to keep the house, you get to keep the supermodel wife, you get to keep the Lambos, you get to keep the cruisers, you get to keep it all. And he agrees. His dad's like, "Jordan, this is a great deal. This is a sweetheart deal. Take it." And I got the feeling as he's given this speech about going away, that is like it's like the speech that sells a rube on a penny stock. And he's doing it to himself.
Huh. Yeah.
Like his future is now a penny stock. It's worth nothing, but he's still talked himself into it, and he's going to buy, and he's going to double down like, "Oh, you want to buy for 3? You know what? How about 5? You know what? Make it 10. And that's what he fucking does. But still, it's like there's the satisfying thing is if he had actually got brought down hard. Yeah, like Goodfellas, the guy, like there's some kind of poetic justice of this guy who, took all the shortcuts and got ahead because he wanted to be somebody, being a nobody and a forcible nobody. Because he ever tries to be somebody again, some mafia asshole will come and whack him.
Yeah.
There is none of that justice on this side of the street.
No.
Because it's just, yeah. So even though he doubled down every single time and had all these moments of clarity, like it just doesn't matter because nothing ever stuck.
So that raises another issue that a lot of people had with this movie, in the glorification of these sorts of behaviors and that lifestyle, but also the movie itself, and the fact that it's made. So let me lay a little groundwork. Jordan Belfort, the real human Jordan Belfort, did all these things, got indicted and got sent to prison for a while, came back out, wrote a book called The Wolf of Wall Street, his autobiography, which is what this movie is based on. Also, Jordan Belfort started a motivational speaking career after this. And that's part of what you see in the end of this film is actually it's Jordan Belfort, the real life Jordan Belfort, introducing Leonardo DiCaprio as Jordan Belfort.
That's cool. Okay, I did not. Okay, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah, in the "Sell Me This Pin" scene.
I guess it's not cool. Fuck you. Should be in jail. But yeah.
So that's what I want to talk about. Like, I'm kind of gross. The most despicable thing about this film existing to me is that Jordan Belfort then profited off of all this after the fact. He made more than $1 million off of this film. I don't know that I can abide the fact that. So there's a question of like, should Martin Scorsese have read this book and then adapted a screenplay that was fictionalized and had nothing to do with Jordan Belfort per se, right? Just had a lot of this story, because it's not an uncommon tale among the Wall Street crowd, I have to imagine. And then not given Jordan Belfort a goddamn dime. Or is it okay that he took this and made it, based on this book of this man's life story, and ended up giving him more money, an obscene amount of money by most people's standards, $1 million, to make this film?
Especially when you realize that that's Jordan at the end. He's literally sucking his own dick.
Dude,
And
it feels really gross when
obscene,
you find out a couple of behind the scenes facts about this movie.
and yeah, he's sucking his own dick and getting $1 million+ for it too.
And the company name in the film of his motivational speaking company is his actual motivational speaking company's name. So he's getting the free publicity from millions of people seeing this movie too. I don't like it, frankly.
There's a ton of people out there who are the rubes or who are going to look at this movie, and the most, I guess the most profitable rube is the rube that thinks they're the smartest guy in a room. And this is the exact kind of thing, like, you know, some guy coming out of there and like, you know what? That guy beat the system and he made all that money and he got the tongue of gold that can sell. I want in on that. And those are the type of people that they're going to funnel to Jordan, and he's going to take them for all. It's almost like if they had the Fire Festival documentaries and it led up to promoting Fire Fest 2.
Right.
More fire, more fest.
Dude,
same
it's
guy.
Fucked up.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I think the way to do it is if we treat financial white collar crime at sufficient scales. Like, we should have escalators, just like, you know, you rob a store, that's one thing. You rob a store with a gun, that's one thing. You rob a store as a previous offender, like, it just gets worse and worse and worse for you. I think we need those kind of accelerators and stuff on the white collar crime, but like, so much of it is just like recouping money that, you know, if you can get a couple $1 million shooken free for the victims fund. Like, what was it? Like, they recovered $3 million for the victims fund. What is that? Is everyone gets 3 cents that he's ever ripped off?
And he was like to pay like 50% of his salary up until 2009 toward, you know, restitution, and the total
how much does he still have in
like
his Swiss
110
accounts?
Million. But
that's the thing. How much does he have in his Swiss accounts? Like, who the fuck knows? Right. He's taking money to Switzerland, $20 million at a time. There's that. So like,
how about this? We take the average American salary, and we divide the amount of money you stole by that. The average annual American salary. We take the amount of money you stole, divide it by that number, and that's how many years you do.
It does seem like, because like I'm thinking about how much in common this had in piracy. Like, piracy was endemic when there's a lot of money to be had. There's a lot of nations in, you know, international waters doing, you know, like, you had the Dutch, you had the English, you had Spain, you had the French, and there's like, you know, like territorial disputes, and there's like a lot of murky details. And then once the international community came together and like, you know what? Fuck pirates. Pirates went down to Davy Jones' locker.
Yeah.
And it does feel like there has to be because like the big part of the problem is you have places like Switzerland, you got places like Monaco, you got places like the Grand Caymans that openly engage in this high stakes white collar piracy. And until the international community gets together and is like, you know what, fuck this stuff. But the problem is the people that have to do that are the ones that are profiting and hiding the money and corruption.
That's the thing, man. Because part of me like looks at those Swiss accounts and I'm like, oh damn, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, if they're going to take advantage of these loopholes, why shouldn't I be doing the same thing, right? If that's the system, fucking do it, because you're a fool if you don't. But the people who would have to enforce, you know, punishment on that type of behavior are just as incentivized in some cases to do the same things when they get in the position where they understand, you know, what's happening and how to fix it.
Yeah, it's a shame that these accounts are private and we can never find out who they belong to or who's engaging in it, except for this was all leaked out in the Panama Papers and no one gave a shit. So it's just a damn shame we can never get to the bottom of it, Jim, except for we always do.
Yeah. And we just don't care.
It's a fun movie. It's a really fun movie. It's so easy to watch. It's like drinking Kool-Aid, you know, but is that Kool-Aid got cyanide in it? Is that Kool-Aid got angry juice is going to keep me angry about it? Probably not. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's a hell of a movie. It's a hell of a movie. The performances alone, holy shit! Did this get any? I can't remember whether this got anything for Oscars.
Let's go over the awards.
I know Martin Scorsese's like perennially fucked over by the Oscars.
Well, this was no different. Although I will say he was up against some stiff fucking competition this year.
That was a Dallas Buyers Club year.
It was dominated by Dallas Buyers Club and 12 Years a Slave. So Best Picture,
Ooh.
it was nominated for that. It lost to 12
Mhm.
Years a Slave. It was nominated for Best Director, Scorsese. It lost to Alfonso Cuarón, Gravity. Best Actor, Leonardo
Oh,
DiCaprio,
that hasn't aged well.
Gravity.
Eh, I mean, you
The
grab it, I mean,
direction,
but yeah, I guess you're
that's
right.
it's pretty outstanding.
Yeah, it feels a little like Forrest Gump versus Goodfellas, or
Sure.
was it Forrest Gump versus Pulp Fiction? I can't remember which Oscar travesty happened.
Yeah. Best Actor, Leonardo DiCaprio got beaten by Matthew McConaughey in Dallas Buyers Club. Jonah Hill as Best Supporting Actor got beat by Jared Leto from Dallas Buyers Club.
That's horseshit.
Best Adapted Screenplay for Terrence Winter got beaten by John Ridley for 12 Years a Slave. So didn't actually win anything it was nominated for, though it was nominated for
Damn,
5 awards.
damn. And yeah,
Yeah.
like it makes sense. Like we were talking about pre-podcast that Matthew McConaughey has this very gaunt, cadaverous look that suited the character so well that he got because he was shooting this in conjunction with Dallas Buyers Club, where he
Right.
played a gaunt, cadaverous guy dying of AIDS.
And it's
Um,
an outstanding film and an outstanding performance from McConaughey. I don't know which one I would pick, frankly. Like they're both so different, but so fucking good. And this is one of the best roles I've ever seen Leo in. So I don't know.
yeah, I mean, yes, yeah. Leo
How do
is
you pick?
he's got a lot. He's been in a lot of good stuff, and he's like sneaky one of our generation's greatest actors. Is
And he's
that
still
fair? Like I
pretty
feel like
young.
yeah, yeah, he's got a long career ahead of him. Gotten up to some Jordan-esque hijinks of his own. Like he was famous a couple
Sure.
of years ago for having 30 supermodels he was fucking on a big boat at some point.
Yeah. I mean, he's definitely likes the ladies. I don't know if he likes the
Yeah.
blow or the lewds, but probably
That's
likes
the
a
other
little
thing is
booze.
like when I see a movie like this, I wonder like is this like some kind of like Roman Caligula thing? Like once you get
Yeah.
past the gauzy veil of like the public rhetoric versus like what's actually going on, is this like literally every stock broker institution? Is this literally every high profile political outfit? Is this literally every big money CEO party? Because
Yeah.
I've heard a lot. Like I never got to those kind of, but like the the low levels of corporate America I clumb to, like you definitely started hearing the rumors of like the golf outings where they were all the flag girls were prostitutes and strippers, and if you tip them $100 they might let you dip their putter in their pussies for extra luck, and like and they were telling this like like what a, and I was just sitting back thinking that's fucked up, man. All for all kinds of reasons. Like why is that fun? Why is that fun? I
Well,
don't know.
is the putter a euphemism? Is it a nickname or literally the putter?
I mean, who knows if you might have some, yeah, but like I think it was
Okay.
literally like a putter. This is as it was foretold to me at some big
Oh, yep,
Midwestern
right.
golf outing. This isn't like on Wall Street or in LA or anything. This is just what's going on in Middle America
Yeah.
amongst the big wigs. So, yeah, Wolf of Wall Street, 2013, hell of a movie. It's an easy way to pass 3 hours.
For sure.